you get the feeling that whoever does it faster is the math person. Whoever does it like first, quicker is good at math, and that's not necessarily the case. I've seen in my own experience, both as a student as an educator, that sometimes it takes longer, and sometimes students might take different paths, and there is no math brain. Like we're all math people. It's just that we haven't had a lot of us haven't had the experience to like develop and flourish in mathematics.
Welcome to State of Ed, a podcast about education inside the classroom and out. My name is Marcus Six.
And I'm Nick Simone.
How are you today, Nick?
Doing very well, getting ready for the school year, but excited to talk about a subject that I really wish I was teaching.
Well, who knows? Maybe by the time we're done today, you'll be qualified to teach math. But our guest is Libo Valencia, a high school mathematics teacher in New York, who is on a mission to bring math concepts to life so students can develop the critical thinking and problem-solving skills that will help them find success not only in class, but in life beyond school. In addition to working in public school, Libo is an adjunct lecturer at CUNY Lehman College, which is also his alma mater. Lastly, he has written a phenomenal book called Math Play that serves as a practical guide for helping teachers teach their students a love of math. And he shares fantastic content regularly on Twitter at Mr. Valencia24. Libo, welcome to State of Ed Podcast.
Good morning, guys. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you this morning.
As are we. So let's start with just calling out the elephant in the room. Why does the word math strike fear in the hearts of most human beings?
So honestly, I think it's because of the way we were all taught. I feel that we were all taught in such a way that we perceive that you either like get it or you don't get it. You're a math person or you're not a math person. And my own school experience, teachers usually like you get the feeling that whoever does it faster is the math person. Whoever does it like first, quicker is good at math, and that's not necessarily the case. I've seen in my own experience, both as a student as an educator, that sometimes it takes longer, and sometimes students might take different paths, and there is no math brain. Like we're all math people. It's just that we haven't had a lot of us haven't had the experience to like develop and flourish in mathematics.
So there's so many questions I could ask based on that, and I will. But where did your love of math originate? How did your professional trajectory go to become a math teacher and college professor?
So my story, Nick, it started back in Colombia. I grew up, I was born and raised in Colombia. I lived in Colombia until I was like 15 years old. So back in Colombia, I was an overall good student, but math always, like I always felt like a fish in water when I was in math class. It made sense. I was able to help people, and I really enjoyed it because it made sense. I love the consistency of mathematics. Like through the grades, were like first grade to like I did 10th grade back in Colombia. It was always like consistent. Like everything that you learn makes sense and connects. So when we moved to the States, I was 15 years old. I had to like redo 10th grade. And back then it was called like the ESOL program or the ESL program. So most of the like some of the classes that I had were like for English, people who were learning English, but my math classes were like regular math classes from the beginning. So to me, like I was sitting in the class, I didn't understand what was said, but I understood the math. So like I think that it was then that I was like, okay, like I know that I'm gonna be a math educator. And long story short, like I graduated White Plains High School. I got a full scholarship to Lehman College, so I became a teacher. When I finished my first master's in pure math at Lehman, they said like, "Oh, Libo, we want you to come." And like to be honest, I did my first master's in pure math, thinking like, okay, one day when I retire, I'll go back and teach at the college level. But opportunity presented itself, and I took it. I started doing college algebra, pre-calc, calc at the college, and I've been teaching since then. It's been like 10 years now at the college level. It's something that I really enjoy. And now I'm a father of two little girls, one going into fourth grade, one going into kindergarten. So now I get to do like the whole idea of like playing with like math started with them. My experience was not like like a lot of play. But like with them, like through them, and like their elementary school experience has been very different than mine growing up in Colombia. So it's kind of like a combination of things. But I think like sitting in a class, not understanding what was said, but understanding the math, that's kind of like when I knew I was like, okay, like this is what I'm gonna do.
So in a way, you already spoke that language, right? The language barrier didn't exist with numbers and the math process or concepts.
Correct. And it was a way for me to like learn English and connect and kind of like feel value, because like when students come from like different places, they don't come in like empty, right? They come in with like all this knowledge. And a lot of times there's a lot of frustration like on the students part and the educators, because oh my God, like we're trying to get you to do this. And there's like processes that, for example, in Latin America and Europe, they do mathematics, like they solve equations in a different way. They get to the same solution. And then, and I feel that I was very lucky because I had teachers that like encouraged that. And I was like, oh, that's awesome, Libo, show us how you do it. While like I also had professors at the college that will say like, no, I want you to do it like this. If you don't do it wrong. So you have to be careful with like that balance, and that's why I feel that a lot of people have like math fear, right? Like math inside, like, oh, I don't know, I don't see it like this, like I don't see it the one way or the highway. So that's why I feel like a lot of people are like somewhat afraid of mathematics.
How many years have you been teaching?
16 years in total. I started yesterday. When was it? Yeah, yesterday officially my 16th year of teaching public schools, and then at the college I've been teaching for about 10 years.
So now when you watch your children learn math, are you seeing it being taught differently? I feel like there's so many different changes that the math curriculum has undergone. Like I remember the Common Core math era, and even like in New York State.
Ever or era?
Era. Oh, very good, Mark.
Thank you.
So do you notice like your children being taught math differently than say when you started as a teacher?
So my experience has always been at the secondary level. So my 16 years have been at high schools in New York State. Growing up, my elementary school experience was back in Colombia. So it's funny that you mentioned that, because my daughter just finished 3rd grade. So this year she was doing multiplication. We were doing a lot of math later multiplication. So I love all the opportunities that are at the elementary level to like play and enjoy. So definitely I reach out to the teacher, the math teacher at the beginning of the school year. And I said, like, you know what, like I see like they do it in different ways, and they try to like sometimes, in my opinion, like oversimplify it too much. So I said, like, my experience was different. I grew up in Colombia, so I want to make sure that we're consistent. And it was funny because his response, he was like, listen, I grew up in New York. I went to this school and my experience was different. So like, don't feel bad. So we had that connection. So I do see that it's different. I feel that a lot of times they try to like oversimplify it. There have been times when I'm sitting with my daughter, my older one, Mariana, and she says, and I had previously taught her how to do something. And then she's like, oh my God, but like, mister, they want me to do it like this. And I said, like, let's do it like that. And there's been times like, no, let's just do it how we know. Or she will tell me, she's like, why can't we just like multiply and add like we always do? So no, let's do it like this on the worksheet. And then like, so I think it's good exposure, because there might be students in her class who might benefit from seeing a second method. So I want to expose her to like different methods and then let her decide. And hopefully she will, like, we haven't had any issues, but hopefully she'll always have a teacher that will honor that. Like, it's not going to say, no, I don't want you to do it like this. I want you to do it like this. So yeah, to answer your question, Nick, I do see that is completely different from the experience that I had as a student. There is a lot of like hands-on, and also the technology that they have right now. Oh my God, like all the tech tools, and it comes so natural to them. Like I don't have to explain the technology to them. My daughter just like knows what to do, knows where to find things a lot faster than I'm able to do it.
There's so many like funny memes and videos online about like how math teachers are asking kids, to get the answer like you were just talking about. I remember one where I saw a kid wrote, it was just like an addition question, and it was like, whatever, let's say 2 + 2. And then they had to justify the answer. And the kid wrote, I looked at the numbers, I thought about it in my head, and I realized the answer was 4. So there's so many challenges, I think, that exist in the discipline. But then what made you come to decide to write this math playbook?
So it all started with my older daughter. So I have two daughters. My older one is like really well behaved. We got tricked into having a second one because the first one was so good, and then this second one is the devil. She listens to nobody. She does
No,
whatever she
she's
wants.
just as good. She's just as good. Make sure you edit that.
Yeah.
No, I'm leaving that one
No.
in because there's truth in what Libo is saying.
So my older one, I couldn't wait to start like playing with her and teaching her math and whatnot. So in my basement where I'm right now, we like this is math play headquarters. Any math set play like shapes patterns that you've seen, I have. Like we have so many math toys in my basement. So we will go to the basement and start playing to the point, and like of course sometimes we'll do like regular play, go outside and play and whatnot. To the point where my daughter sometimes will ask me like, okay, are we gonna do like math play or are we gonna do like play? Like we're going outside or we're going to the basement? What's gonna happen?
Oh, that's great.
So and I saw like she got to explore different things. Like I was basically teaching her like whatever she was gonna be learning. And this started like before she started like pre-K. So and then like it continues. So and I always noticed that she was very engaged. She was very happy. She got to explore things of like when she was like in pre-K or like kindergarten. We were already like mathematically like first grade, like getting into second grade. So what I noticed was that she was always engaged and happy, and like the time will flew by. We will like spend an hour like exploring something. Again, it also like her personality. She's very well behaved. She wants to like keep going and whatnot. So I was like, oh my God, this is very powerful. Like we're always having fun. She's always engaged. So I started to think like, could this potentially work at the high school level? Because that's like a different story. Because now I have a curriculum. There might be a state assessment. There might be a regents at the end of the school year. So I decided to give it a shot. I was like, you know what? I got nothing to lose. Let's try it. And it was very effective as well. And so when I tried at the high school level with my geometry students, that was the first class that I tried it on. It was really good. It was positive. The students like liked it. They were just as engaged as my daughter. Now, I wasn't able to do like a math play activity every day with them because of the limitations, but my goal was to do at least like one math play activity per unit, per chapter. And then since then it started to like develop and grow. Like not only like all the classes that I teach, but also like now I have maybe like 1 or 2 or 3 math play activities per unit of study. So I felt that there were a lot of opportunities at the elementary level, but there are also opportunities at the secondary level. And the students at the secondary level, they're still kids. They're still young. They will
That's
enjoy.
right.
And if you think about it, play is such a natural thing. So when we can connect play with learning at any level is effective. I've even tried it with my college students at the college level, and it's equally engaging. It's something that people enjoy, and they don't even realize that they're doing math. So it's that's how it started. It started with my daughter, and then I tried it at the high school. I tried it with the college, and I got to present at the for something called the Global Math Department. So I did a presentation with like some of the activities that I had done, and then Brian Aspinall from Codebreaker watched that presentation, and then he reached out to the book. And that's kind of like the idea of the book came about. It wasn't, Nick. It wasn't something that I had planned or that I said, "Oh my God, I'm going to do this and I'm going to write." It kind of like like I call them blessings, like opportunities that presented itself, and then you take them, you take advantage, and then you see where it leads.
I love
It's
that.
amazing.
There's something that you said there that really struck me. You said you're having fun, the kids are engaged, but you can only do that for so long because you have limitations. And the limitations that you're referring to, of course, are like the stringent curriculum that you have to complete in order to reach an assessment, which is a highly imperfect tool to somehow create data to either justify that the system is working or not working, depending on who's in power at any given moment. And that to me is so everything you're saying is so uplifting and invigorating and aspirational, but yet also so frustrating because the system insists on keeping those limitations in place, where educators like yourself have used your talent, your passion, your ingenuity to come up with ways to break down those barriers and truly engage your students in your discipline. But the rigidity of the system is constantly working against you, which is just, I think, on behalf of all educators, just a source of perpetual frustration.
Correct. I feel that, I mean, to that point, I feel that I've been very lucky, and I try to like when I want to do something, I do it, and I'd rather do
Good
it
for
and
you.
say, like, okay, like this didn't work. But like in my heart, like if somebody like I could justify, like, listen, I did this with my daughters and it was good, and this is what they're doing. This is what they're capable of doing right now. So I think I have a responsibility to like expose my students to like the same. Like if it works for my daughter and I'm willing to do it for my daughter, why wouldn't I want to do it for my students? And I feel that, and you know, if you start, in my experience, if you start talking about it, like you'll hear all the reasons why you shouldn't do it. It could be within your own department, within the school. People will tell you like no, but like you already, like when I started doing math play, it was probably like my 10-year, 11-year of teaching, and I already had the lessons. I had taught everything from algebra to calc. So I was like, I already have something that I think works or it has worked well. But like, there's not a reason not to make it better, right? So I
Right.
decided to try it, and I also feel that I've been very lucky in the sense that the administrators that I've worked with have been very supportive. And like the secret, like my secret is when I'm gonna try something that I don't know what's gonna happen, I invite them. I reach out to my administrator, to my supervisor, and I said, "Oh, I'm trying something new on this date, this period. Feel free to stop by." So in my mind, that's genius, because if he comes and it doesn't work, like I invited you, I told you that I was trying something for the first time, and then if they come and they like it, great. Then like either way, I'm covered. And like to that note, like every time that they come, and like the students have been engaged. And like even the times that it didn't work out exactly how I planned, it was better. So like they were happy to be there. And they notice like high levels of engagement. The students are happy, they're working, they're learning mathematics. Also, like doing facilitating math play in the classroom doesn't imply that it's going to be less rigorous. I had students in advanced pre-calc classes that have created amazing math art, have made amazing connections. Look, so through play, through math play, they're not only like learning the content, but getting like a deep understanding. Like they're owning the content.
Only limited people conflate play with lack of rigor.
Of
It's
course.
because look at athletes. Football, they're playing football, but I mean, is there anything more difficult than that? To play
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be easy. To play can be
Mm-hmm.
very rigorous.
Mm-hmm.
Libo, I'm sorry I don't know this, but when you teach at Lehman College, are you teaching math courses or are you teaching courses for people to become math teachers?
So funny that you asked that. And right now, so I started doing that 10 years ago, and it's like math courses. So I do like a college
Right.
algebra class, a pre-calculus class, Calc 1 class, an applied calculus class. But like it's funny, Nick, that I need to share this now. So when I was doing my first master's in pure math at Lehman, I took a class called Exploring Mathematics with Technology. And it was with Dr. Farah, who's a math professor at the time. Now he is the math chair. Last year, he reached out to me. He said, like, Libo, I have been teaching this class, and I want you now to teach it. And that is a class for secondary math teachers. So right now, I'm doing both. I'm doing the calc class that I regularly do, and then I'm also doing Exploring Math with Technology for future math educators, mostly at the secondary level. So right now, I'm doing both.
That's great, because I do think we have to face, the reality. Sometimes it is going to be difficult to shift the thinking of people that have been teaching for 20 or more years. Some are receptive, but some may not be. But we really have to break them in. Like to be honest, the few minutes we've been together, I want every new math teacher to have you as their college professor.
Absolutely.
Because that's how you really set the foundation for what they're going to do for their, next 30 or 35 years. Have you
Just your
enjoyed
constant exploration of finding the next great thing, the next great way to make it engaging. It's so inspiring.
It does help. I feel that it does help having from like a mathematical perspective. Like I've taught algebra, geometry, algebra 2, trigonometry, pre-calculus, calculus. I've taught what we consider like different levels, like the different tracks, the standard track, the advanced honors, the essential level class. And I've tried math play with like all these classes that I teach, and it's just as effective. So I feel like having taught like those different classes really serves, because then you know what the students are coming in with, and I know that once they finish, once they go to geometry, these are the skills that they need, or like this is what they're living with, and this is what they need for the next class. So I feel that that was like something that was very helpful for me to start doing a lot of math play, that I had already like taught the courses. So I knew, I was familiar with the, no, not only with the content, but with the pace, with like, okay, I need to slow down here. I might need an extra day in here. So that was beneficial, because then I was able to like, okay, like this will be a good time to do math play. So like instead of doing, I learn with worksheets. So instead of doing a worksheet, like for example, when students are exploring parallelograms or triangles, I had them walk around the school, walk around their house, take a picture of something that they think is a triangle, parallelogram, and then prove or disprove that it is using a tech tool. So that's engaging for the kids. That's amazing. Now, they don't do a worksheet of 10 problems. They might be doing 1 or 2, but like it's like they're doing 2 at a deeper level, because they're going to take a picture of something that is relevant to them. So now we're making those connections, and then they want to show other people. I also have explored like different types of assessments. So like instead of, usually like math teachers will do like a quiz halfway through the unit and then a test at the end. Sometimes instead of doing a quiz, I have students make a video tutorial. Because like that's the world that they live in, right? They're on TikTok all the time. They're on YouTube. They have their own channels. They have their own podcasts and whatnot. So I have them like explore, like now with all the tech tools that are out there. If I give them they're gonna give me back something perfect, and I might not know whether they did it or not. But when they have to make a video explaining a question in detail, even if they use AI, it's fine. Like use it, but then I want to hear it from you. Because like when you're making a video explaining something, if it's not clear, it's gonna show. and I've seen them, and also it's a great way for like, I have students and the video is like funny. They're like, oh, hello, Mr. Valencia, this is the, and I have students that you look at their tutorial and it looks like something that came from a textbook. It's like professional. Look, you have like, it looks beautiful. So like I feel that facilitating math play also connects with the students, because it gives them choice in how to demonstrate, like how to best demonstrate mastery of their learning, instead of doing like always one thing and the same thing for all of them.
That was great.
That's a mic drop. That's
Yeah,
a mic drop moment. That's amazing.
You know, because when you're not a math teacher, you often hear from the students who are complaining about math, when am I going to need to use this? That's, that's been the last 30 years. And my response to them is always, well, number one, there's plenty of applications for you to use it. I said, but more importantly, math trains you and trains your mind how to think, how to solve problems. I said, that's, to me, that's the primary benefit of math. But I know Mark wanted to ask, like, we have this debate about whether or not students should be using calculators. At what point should they be using calculators? Because my first stage, well, I'll just ask you, at what grade level or at what point do you think it should be okay for kids to do calculations with?
And just so you know, this has been a 15-year debate, Libo. So the weight of what you're about to say is going to have far-reaching and long-lasting repercussions. So just no pressure on you, but just understand that that's what's happening right now.
So my own experience as a student, I don't think I was allowed, like we were allowed, like in the school where I went in Colombia, we weren't allowed to use calculators. So like everything had to be, you do computations by hand, which kind of like does make your mental math stronger. I do, because you're like using it all the time. And it also gives you confidence. I've had students in advanced classes, and I say like, what, 5 times 4 while we're doing a problem, and they say 20, and I turn around and say 20, and I make a face, and they say, oh, I'm sorry, and then they get the calculator. So, and that's like the strong students, right? I've seen that at the college. All the classes that I teach, as per the department, are like no calculators are allowed on the final exam, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because I tell my students, like, not having a calculator limits the questions that I could give you. I'm only going to give you questions that you could do without a calculator. If you had a calculator, then the questions are going to be more challenging. Then there's like, the sky's the limit for me. So I feel with my daughters, like the one going into 4th grade, she doesn't use a calculator. And I feel that it does help. I think that there is a point, I don't know exactly what the point will be, but there is a point where using the calculator, they use it for the regions at the high school, for the algebra regions, geometry regions. But so I do feel that at the beginning, it's important for students to develop those skills. Because like right now we're multiplying with my daughter, like she learned multiplication, but right now we're doing, 3 numbers times 2 numbers, or 4 numbers times 3 numbers. So like knowing her multiplication tables makes the process easier. Right now, someone might argue, oh, she could just, it's on a piece of paper, isn't it? But it's important for her to develop that skill. Now, when she's doing, let's say that she becomes an engineer, she's probably not going to be doing it by hand. She's going to have a software that is going to do it for her. But I think at this point, it's important to develop those skills so that she has the confidence and she understands, like, what is it that the calculator is doing.
Thank you very much. That was an excellent answer. Unfortunately,
will
Mark's
be editing out of.
Mark's going to cut it out.
No, you win, Nick. I mean, I think he did touch upon some of the arguments that I made, but I think overall, he has sided with you. So I will gracefully bow down, maybe begrudgingly, not gracefully.
But now, so based on your initial response, this is the first question, and this is what I think is the biggest challenge with math. Mm-hmm. You were talking about how some kids will all get the math at a different time. That it doesn't mean that they're weaker, right? Mm-hmm. To me, that's the biggest struggle. We place kids by grade in a course. Mm-hmm. And yes, we do. I know some kids you mentioned, some kids are in advanced class. Sometimes it's accelerated by a year mm-hmm. in math. But the reality is that there are some students who are 4 years accelerated, if you're going based on the curriculum, and some mm-hmm. kids who it's going to take them 4 years to maybe do 2 years of work. Mm-hmm. That's the challenge. And again, I'm not a math teacher, but that's a challenge I haven't been able to figure out how we overcome. Because if you're teaching, I teach history. So mm-hmm. of course I want them to know the chronology of history, but I can pretty much teach them the Cold War if they don't remember everything about the Progressive Era. Mm-hmm. But in math, everything builds off of each other. So how, and I know this is a tough question, but how do you advise math teachers when there's just such a diversity of learning paces in the room with students?
So yeah, definitely a tough question, because most math teachers, I feel, we have these constraints and limitations, right? Like you have to, your students should know ABC by the end of the year. There's going to be a Regents, there's going to be a final exam, department final exam. But what I've learned and what I've noticed is that if you become too strict, right? I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. You're going to do that. It doesn't mean that people are going to learn it. Now, at the end, right, when you get to the last unit, the last chapter, you might have 1 or 2 students with you, and then you lost everyone else halfway. So I feel like as educators, we have to adjust. And there are things that are going to be beyond your control. You might have students that come into your classroom with interrupted education, right? Haven't been to school in years. And now you're supposed to we do, I feel that we have to normalize, let's do the best we can, right? So if a student is not ready to go into quadratic functions because they need more time on linear functions, we need to spend more time on linear functions, right? Make sure that they understand that before they go in quadratic, because just moving to the next thing is a disservice for them. And I know that it's hard, right? Because then this involves parents and different stakeholders are gonna say no, I want my kid to do this and be here so they can apply to this college and whatnot. But at the same time, it creates this disparity. A lot of times, even within strong classes, you might have students that don't want to be there, that have all different kinds of supports in those classes that other students don't have. So where is the equity, right? If I have a student in an advanced class that can afford tutoring and different things, and a student that doesn't, then it's not fair. Then that student might be there because of different resources, instead of I belong to this class, or I should be in this class. So no, definitely a tough question. I feel that mathematically, what you should do is adjust to the students and try to if you get them in level 1, then try to move them to level 2. If you get them in level 2, try to move them to level 3. And even within a class of that is completely standard or essential or advanced, you're gonna have different levels of skills and maturity and like different things. So I feel like we need to adjust and try like at the end of the school year, our students should be like we should be able to see some progress. Now it's not gonna be the same progress for all of them. But as long as we can, I mean, if we could find a way to like measure individual progress for the students, that would be beneficial because then I can say, okay, I start like this student start like this level, and then now they're doing this. Now they're able to do this. But just like pushing them and pushing them, that creates a lot of like problems that we see like down the line. Also, for the students, it creates like I see it at the secondary level. A lot of times when I get students, they already have a predetermined math identity. I'm not good at math. Valencia, I hate math. I'm terrible at math. Like by like the first day that I see them, they're telling me like I hate math. I'm always like in the easy math classes. So it kind of like defeats the purpose because no, that's not true. Like you're capable, but they had this negative experience that they have internalized. Like, oh, I'm gonna be in the silly math class. I don't get it. I don't like it. So I don't know because there's also like different constraints, right? And you might have people that say, oh, okay, fine. If you don't measure like what I'm gonna do at the end of the school year, then if I do nothing, like no one's gonna know. I know that that's not the majority of people, but that there's teachers like that out there. So I know there has to be a balance, but the balance cannot be like let's just keep pushing them to the next level when they're not ready.
How do you get them to rebuild their confidence, Libo, if they come to you without?
So it's hard. It's hard, but like math play is something that we implement and that we try, and then it's like user friendly, like baby steps, and then like you kind of like hand hold them, but then you kind of let go, and then you show them that they're capable, that it's not just like one way or the highway, allowing them to like giving them choice in like how they demonstrate mastery of the learning, whether it's like with group work, with like a project, with different things. That helps a lot, and like in my experience, that's not very common in math classes. A lot of like math classes are still like very traditional, in the sense that okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do a quiz, and we're gonna do a test at the end, and that's for the most part the way I learn mathematics. And I can say like, oh, I experienced some success in math, but I feel like nowadays we have to be more like we have to try to meet our students where they are.
I feel like there are a number of educators who have this very forward-thinking and progressive mindset and approach. One of the problems that I feel we run into is that while we're trying to take steps into I want to say into the future, but really just to meet the needs of now. Like we're both in New York State. New York State is not changing where the goalpost is. So we're trying to like convince everybody that we need to move in a different direction. But for the people who want to put up resistance, it's very easy to do that because they could just point to the fact that, well, there's still a readings exam every June and they have to still take this same test. Now, granted, they are changing the tests very slowly, but it just makes it that much more difficult to kind of galvanize people into this new way of thinking and progressive way of thinking and need for change when so many of the benchmarks are remaining static. It creates a strain that's very difficult to overcome and really create a groundswell in the direction that you're talking about.
The work that I do, or the work that happens in the classroom, you'll find out through the students. So I had students that after they did a math art project, the school posted their project on the school website. And now they're sharing it on their social media. So that starts to like change the mentality, because like you might not agree with me, but we have the same students. Like the kids that come into like my classroom and let's say somebody that's more traditional are the same kids. And then you see the students engaging in a different way. So you might be, you might have thought for like, okay, I've been teaching for 20 years. This works. And yes, it does work, but like, that's not a reason to try like something different or something better or something that is going to be more appealing to the students that you have nowadays. So I feel that the students are critical in making that change, because like, if it's like teacher to teacher, you're going to have reasons why you should do it, why you shouldn't do it. But when the students tell you like, oh, I love if we were able to use Desmos or GeoGebra, now it's harder for you to say like, well, I have been using like this tool for whatever number of years. And they're going to tell, well, but like this one is free. And I can do it on my phone. I can do it on a computer. So I feel that it shouldn't be, a lot of times like the decisions that are made are not like, the people in like the mighty powers, how I call them, decide. And a lot of times if we were to bring in like students, like more student input into the picture, that will make a difference. Not only from like the students buying, but also teachers. Because like I feel like 99.9% of teachers are in teaching for the business of the kids. Right. So
That's right.
every teacher wants to do what's best for their kids. So now if you hear it from the students like, oh, this is great, I want to engage in the, like using like whatever tools or like different using different projects, that could like incentive, like motivate the teacher to like try something different.
Were your students last year really excited when you published the book to know that
they kept asking, because many of the projects, many of the activities that we did were in there. There are in one of the first chapters of the book, I used student input. So I talked to like a couple of students and their parents, they got their parents' permission, and I asked them some questions, and then they responded. So that's in the book, like why math play was beneficial for them from the perspective of a student. So that was exciting, and a lot of the projects, a lot of the activities that we did, that happened with them. So they couldn't wait. They kept asking me, like, Mr. Valencia, it's gonna be like this summer. It's gonna be there. Are you gonna put like? So they were excited, and it was nice. It was very nice.
And I would assume the process of writing the book has even inspired you to keep growing as a teacher as well, and trying to spread the word as much as possible.
Correct. Yeah. No. Like I mentioned, I feel like it's all like blessings. I've had, since the book was published, I had the opportunity to present in different conferences. I did a keynote at the end of July for teachers in Pennsylvania. So I feel that, and like when I do it, like I feel that people, like I can see in their faces, like people like the idea, they connect, and they want to like, okay, like Libo, how do I start? And what I always tell them is like, start with like one math play activity per unit of study. Starting a class where you feel comfortable, right? Now, it might not be every single class. Like a couple of years ago, I had a geometry class, and especially the boys in the class were extremely immature. So in a class like that, they might not be ready for like a full math play activity. But we could do a math play activation. We could do a math play consolidation within the lesson. So that there are ways to start slow, and it does promote like a changing mentality, because then people don't stop seeing math as like this thing that it's only for a few people that get it and understand it and like it. No, math, there is a place in mathematics for everyone.
I love that line. Oh my God, that's great. I know you've done a lot of work with GeoGebra. What is so special about GeoGebra, or groundbreaking about GeoGebra that makes it kind of stand above a lot of these other programs and applications?
So I learned about GeoGebra back in college. I feel that GeoGebra is it's very popular in Latin America and Europe. Not so much in the US. I use all different kinds of technologies. GeoGebra, the number one thing that I like is that it's free. It's free for teachers. It's free for students. It's a graphing calculator. So I started using it in New York. As you know, students are required to take the Regents, and they need a TI 8384. So when it comes time to the Regents, for people like here, like listen to us outside of New York, the school usually provides the calculator. But for students to practice at home, some students might not be able to afford it because it's like $100. So I started using GeoGebra as a tool for like, oh, here's a graphing calculator that you can use online. It's free. Now, so it's free. It has a lot of resources from like pre-K to like advanced college classes. And I really like that through like the applets that it has, the math comes to life, right? They're fun, they're easy to use, they're intuitive. So I've done things for like, for example, with the Powerpuff Girls, for my daughters in like 3D within GeoGebra. I use it with my calc students when we're exploring like rate of change, and it connects like different things. Now, in addition to GeoGebra, I use Desmos, Mathigon, Graspable Math. So all the tech tools that are out there, I probably have used them. I use them in my classroom. I use them for different purposes. I feel like GeoGebra is very good for like advanced level classes, like pre-calc, calc. I feel like there's a lot of resources in there. I also love how user-friendly, like for example, Desmos is, and how he has like a teacher can run an entire lesson on Desmos and get student feedback right away. So like, and that's another thing that as educators, we should be thinking about. All these tools are already out there. Our students are going to use them, whether you use them in class or not, they're going to find out about these tools. So I want my students, I learn about many of the tools at the college level. Now, if a student in my class is gonna experience like all the different technologies by the time they're done. Like once they're done with me 1 year, they already know all the tools, all the math tech tools that are out there. And I feel that that's part of the process. Whatever they do after college, think about like our job. How many times has curriculum changed? The technology platforms that we use,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's like Zoom or Google Meets or like things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to adapt and use different platforms and different technologies and different resources is a part of life. So like those are the things, those are the connections that I want to make in my classroom. I want them to like utilize mathematics beyond the classroom. So like, and all these tech tools, and they come so natural to the kids. Like both my daughters have iPads, and they have like all different math applets in there. So like I give it to my 5-year-old, and she takes it, and she's like playing, and she knows where to find things, and she knows how to connect things. And I'm like, oh my god, like I took a class on that to learn how to do all of that, or I watch a webinar and whatnot. But for them, it's like so the technology is at their fingertips.
So I'm going to state the obvious. You are an exceptional educator. Your passion, your knowledge, your drive, you are a tremendous inspiration. So I just have to ask, when you came to the country, did you hit the ground running academically? Was there, for yourself, was there a little bit of like a big transition to excel in the classroom? And then my second question was really going to be, have you been able to encounter other students with a similar journey of yours, whether it's in your high school or in college, that you can kind of touch upon them? Because, you know, Mark and I were always, you know, we have a large E&L population in our school. And every school, you know, there are just so many kids, I feel like, that have they have the ability, but they just need somebody to bring it out of them. So I'm just curious if there was a teacher, or if you really just hit the ground running, which is possible. You could say that.
No, it was definitely. So I feel like I built the work ethic in back in Colombia. Mr. Valencia Senior, like school was very important to him. So like he instilled that in me. So like when we arrived, part of my family was in the States, part of my family was in Colombia. I was a teenager. I did not want to leave Colombia at the time, so I wasn't too happy about moving to the US. And then when I had just finished 10th grade, I had one more year in Colombia to finish like high school. But then here I had to like do 10th grade again so I could learn English in the process. And then I had 10, 11, and 12. I was like, oh, Jesus, like I had 1 year over there. Now I have to do 3 over here. And like I didn't speak a word of English, but I feel that I started with like some ESL classes. Some of the classes were standard, but at the end of the first quarter, I started with an intermediate because I play video games back in Colombia. So I knew I had some things in English, right? Like some words that I knew. So I wasn't completely like a beginner. But then at the end of the first quarter, I was in advanced. And then at the end of that school year, I was out of the ESL program. So it was part of like the work ethic. And then like my following year, I was in advanced math classes and like my physics honors. And so I started. So but it was definitely, I couldn't have done so without like the help of the teachers. I feel that I had amazing teachers at White Plains High School in New York that like supported me and helped me and guided me. And I remember like the first math teacher that I had at the end of the school year, Mrs. Weber, she said, Libo, I'm going to recommend you for honors classes. And I was afraid. I was like, oh no, like, I don't want to get in trouble. Like I'm doing it. And she's like, no, I want you to go to honors class. And I did, and it was beneficial because then at the end of those 3 years, when I applied to college, I got a scholarship. And it was like, it's all blessings. When I finished college, I went back to apply for a job as a teacher, and I applied at White Plains. And at the time, Ms. Weber was now the math department chair. Isn't that like, so I did my first 2 years of working as a teacher were at White Plains High School. Then I went to a different school, and then I went to the school where I'm right now. So it was all kind of like blessings. So to go back to your question, I feel that I had teachers that believed in me, like Ms. Weber, who said like, you should be in honors math next year from the very beginning. And it was probably like she took a chance, or like she said, oh, like I could see his potential. And not too long ago, like earlier this year, back in I think it was March, I did a Mathlete presentation for like the 10 county conference, like around where we live, and she was kind of like the host. So it was amazing, and we got to connect. And she said, like, Libo, I knew like your work ethic since day one. Like you just haven't changed. Like it was like that from day one. But it was definitely a combination of things, having opportunities and like being prepared. I tell my daughter all the time that there's no luck. Like luck is when preparation meets opportunity. You have to be ready and wait for that opportunity. Now, needless to say, I feel like growing up in Colombia, I grew up in Colombia in a very poor neighborhood and like seeing all kinds of crazy things. But so I feel that talent is everywhere. Like talented people are everywhere. Opportunity is not. So for me, I feel like my life has been like preparation means opportunity, go. Preparation means opportunity, go. And it has been a lot of blessings. So I try to like teach that, like share that with my students and share that with my daughters. I do feel that there is more room for minorities, right? And people that have been underrepresented for many years in math, in science. And all we need is teachers that inspire our students and tell them like, yeah, you could do this. And then our students are going to surpass like whatever we think they could do more.
Libo, you're a force of nature. You're a force of nature. Really incredible person, amazing educator. Like Nick said, we could just tell just the enthusiasm and the passion that comes out of you. You're basically like, I know folks aren't going to be able to see this, but like you're like jumping out of the screen as you're telling these stories. You're so on fire with all of this, and it's just incredible. With almost 2 decades in the classroom, and you still have that fire and that passion, and you're still exploring, you're still innovating, you're still creating, and more importantly, you're sharing all that you've come up with other educators through your work as a speaker, as a professor, as a teacher, as a writer, as a published author. And, just really couldn't be happier to have met you and had a chance to speak with you today on the podcast.
Oh, no, thank you so much. I am honored to be here to talk to you guys. I always share that knowledge is meant to be shared. If I have an activity that works, and the teacher, like if I don't, like I'd rather share. Now, whether you do it or not is your business, but I'm going to share because I want to know that I do it with my department. I share things with my department. They probably going to know like, oh my God, here's another email from Libo, but I'm always sharing. I'm sharing things with like people that I know. I share it on X, on Twitter. And in my, like, if one teacher takes that and does it in their classroom, and sometimes people do, and they will tag you saying, oh, Libo, I tried this, the Pringles activity, and it was like really good. The kids like it, they love that and whatnot. So like that to me is it brings me joy. Like I want more, somebody who like is passionate and loves math. I want more people to love math and see all the potential. I usually finish my keynote saying that math should be every kid's favorite class. Like, what if math was every kid's favorite class? Because math has the potential to be every kid's favorite class. When I did my second master's, I did my master's in school leadership. And since then, I had opportunities where people say, like, oh my God, you should go into, and maybe the time will come. To be honest, I did it at the time because I was, all right, like, I have enough math. I already have a master's in pure math. I don't think I need more math classes to teach high school. So I did an administrative degree, but I still feel that my passion is in the classroom. I don't know if it might change, but my passion is in the classroom. I love connecting with kids and like showing them what they can do with math, whether it's an advanced class, a standard class. I want everyone to enjoy math, and like I want everyone to like their favorite class. Like if you have Mr. Valencia, your favorite class should be math, and I want more people to experience that.
Now I want to audit your class. I might be signing up at Lehman. Just if you see an old person on your roster, be prepared. Thank you so much. It was really such an honor to meet you, and more importantly, an inspiration to listen to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to talk to you guys this morning.
You can catch up on previous episodes of State of Ed Podcast on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, or anywhere else where you can find podcasts. You can also check us out on the web, stateofedpodcast.com, where you'll also find links to what we've discussed, including Libo's website and a link to check out his book, Math Play. You can also pick up a copy of Forward Fast, and I'm proud to say that I have a new book called Captivate that is being published through Codebreaker Books, and that will be available early this fall. Very excited to share that with the audience of this podcast. You can find me on the web at marcus6.com on Twitter at Marcissix, on YouTube at EduPyro, and across other socials on the web. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Libo. This was an amazing conversation. We'll see you next time.